Up, everyone? Brandon First, aka First Report, representing the First Off the Bench podcast network. Everyone comes off the bench. We are first. Welcome into another edition of the NFL Weekly as we look at week number one of the 2021 regular season. Going to do things a little differently on a couple things here tonight. Unfortunately, we are not able to get the gang together. However, we have Raider Jim, who will be popping in here momentarily to give you his week one looks. And I will come in after Raider Jim and give you a couple of my looks as well. Hopefully next week, week number two, we will get the gang back together and we'll be able to do it in a more normal setting. But let's just give you, of course, a rundown of what we got going on. As always, you can find myself at First Report, Ferst. You can find Coach Lupian, who will be back with us next week, at Portland 76er. And you can find Raider Jim Martinez at Raider Jim 1090. He will be popping in here as we speak. And without further ado, it is time to hear from Mr. Martinez as he looks ahead to week number one. I'll be right back.
Hey, well, here we are again. It's another Wednesday. We're going to be talking NFL. And like always, I'm so happy to be proud of this group. Brandon First, Brandon Lupian, the coach. My pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you for always including me as part of the First Off the Bench team. Hard to believe that here we are talking about the start of the NFL season. It seems like just yesterday we were talking about the Kentucky Derby, wrapping up March Madness, and doing the countdown. How many days until the first NFL preseason game? Preseason is in the past, and here we are. It's like Christmas Eve. We're less than 24 hours away from kickoff for the first game. That's going to be on Thursday night. It's going to be in Tampa Bay, where the Cowboys are going to be taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Dallas has enough issues and enough unanswered questions. Amari Cooper is not 100%. Dak Prescott, it's yet to be seen. Do they have enough to contain Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? No, they don't. So what I'm going to say is, and now on top of everything else, they've got COVID to deal with their starting guard being taken out due to COVID. Jerry Jones and all his money cannot make it any faster for testing and test results. So don't look for anything promising on the offensive line, and that could be a real issue for the Dallas Cowboys. But back to the bottom line. The bottom line is Tampa Bay's just too talented. They've got too much. They're healthy. Tom Brady, I read somewhere it was a pretty funny line. They said COVID got into Tom Brady during the offseason and probably realized it did not stand a chance against one of the healthiest men walking the planet. So Tom Brady, a healthy Tom Brady, is going to lead the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this one. Defense for Tampa Bay should be stout as always and should perform tomorrow. Look for them to win the game. Look for them to cover, and the total points on this one will be under 52. There is a little bit of weather out there in Tampa Bay, and that could be a problem. Then we have a couple days off, and we'll get started with the Jets versus Carolina. For at least week one, Carolina will have Christian McCaffrey in the backfield. That they're going to have a better defense than the Jets put on the field, and with that said, the Jets can keep close, but not enough to win the opener. Carolina wins at home. Jets will cover the plus 5.5, and it will be under 45. For Pittsburgh and Buffalo, here it is, Big Ben's last season. It's the last hurrah for Big Ben. He's in better health this year than he was going into 2020. On the road against Buffalo could be a statement game right off the bat, and the Bills are smart enough to not look past Pittsburgh. They don't see this as a victory in the bag. They know they're going to be tested. So the Bills should prevail at home, but the Steelers are going to compete. The Bills win, the Steelers cover plus 6.5. It will go over 48. Look for Big Ben to have a pretty decent game on Sunday. Next, we have Jacksonville versus Houston. Houston, you have a problem. Off-field matters are never good for any locker room. But if they have a team leader and as a group, if you can focus, stay focused, and have direction, then a team can overcome any of the outside distractions. Unfortunately, it's not the case for Houston, who have named 10-year NFL veteran Tyrod Taylor as their starting quarterback for the week one of the 2021 season. Now, Take away his 3 seasons as a starter for Buffalo in 2015, 16, and 17. There are only 4 other occasions in his career when Taylor was a starter. On the other side of the ball, there's Trevor Lawrence. As a rule, week 1, game 1, a rookie like Lawrence is going to have a little bit of jitters, a little bit of stage fright. However, the situation in Houston is in such disarray right now. This gives Lawrence the perfect setting to go out, have a great opening game, take Jacksonville on the road, -3. Game will be under 45. Cardinals versus Tennessee. Cardinals aren't bad, but unless J.J. Watt can do man coverage against Julio Jones and stop Derrick Henry at the same time, this one's going to be all Tennessee. They're too robust. They're too strong. They have too many weapons. And the Titans are just too physical and talented all the way around against Arizona. Again, Arizona's not a bad team. Tennessee's just that good. Look for the Titans. Take the Titans in the money line. Take under 52 in that one. Then we move on to the Chargers versus the Washington football team. The Chargers are at -1 right now, which is interesting. They've made coaching changes, they made offensive line changes, and we will see early on in the season, was Justin Herbert, or Abear, however he wants to say his name, was he a running downhill fluke, or is he a legitimate NFL quarterback? We're going to find out. Washington can't be dismissed or overlooked, though, because Ron Rivera knows how to coach. Ron Rivera is a professional, and he knows how to get his troops in order, and I believe he's done so in the offseason. It's Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to bring a lot of experience, just enough experience and enough guidance by Ron Rivera and his staff. This is going to be a good game, better than some people think, and I'm going to take Washington in the mild upset at home under 45. The Eagles and the Falcons. First report, cover your ears. This might be more exciting than people will think. As much as the Falcons are on the decline, they couldn't have pulled a better opponent to open the 2021 season at home. As long as Atlanta can get grade B play from both sides of the line, the offensive line and the defensive line, then they should be able to prevail. Watch for Ryan to have a pretty good game at quarterback. The Falcons win. They cover the 3 points. Falcons -3. Over 48 in this one. Good luck to the Eagles this year. Seattle at Indianapolis. Seattle doesn't really care if they have to travel and play on the road to open the season. Seattle's just one of those blue-collar teams that, where do you want us to play? They're like hired guns. The Colts, Carson Wentz is going to be back there, but he had foot surgery in August. And like any good coaching staff in the front office, he's great. He's 100%. He's ready to play because it's not their foot. We'll see how he responds. If he is 100%, that might be a good thing. If they can keep him on the field, is he going to get fatigued? We'll see. On the other side of that, Russell Wilson can still execute. He can still move. The Colts defense is good. It's not great, and Seattle's going to be able to score. Seattle wins this one on the road. Seattle -2.5, over 49. The Vikings and the Bengals. The Vikings defense has to show up for game 1. If they have a poor performance on defense, it's not going to do anything to help their cause to start the season on a good foot. If they do show up, then Minnesota should get this win. Vikings -3, under 47.5. 49ers versus Lions. The new look Lions and the new look 49ers. The Lions have the best game 1 chance they've had in quite a few years, in my estimation. Good enough to win? Maybe not good enough to win. Good enough to cover? Absolutely. 7 points is just too much for an opening game when it's the Lions and the 49ers. So take the Lions, take +7, take over 45 because I think there's going to be more offense in this one than people might realize. Moving on to Miami at New England. Everything points to the fact that Miami should roll into town and win on the road to open the season. That's where all the indicators point. I just don't think that's going to happen. I think the New England defense is going to show up. The New England defense is going to have something to say about the end, the end of the game for sure. and undoubtedly they're going to be ready for the home opener on Sunday. Watch for New England in a close one. Take over 43.5. And Mac Jones, good luck to you. The Broncos at the Giants. I'm going to stand by remarks I made just a few weeks ago when we covered the AFC West, and that is the Broncos are going to be better than a lot of people anticipate. Denver is going to be a good team. They're going to be competitive each and every week. The Giants, they're still the Giants. Barkley's going to be back. What does that really mean? Denver on the road covers. So take Denver -3 over 42. Look for the Broncos in this one. The Packers at the Saints. Coach, what can I say? This is going to be one great game. Now, I want to know who at the New Orleans front office was sitting around and said, we can't play in our dome because of the storm that rolled through here. I know, let's go play outside in Jacksonville. Sunday forecast for Jacksonville is in the high 80s, high humidity with a chance of thunder showers. That doesn't sound much better than anywhere else, really. But it's going to be a great game. The Saints are moving on from future Hall of Famer Drew Brees. The Packers are coming into town with future Hall of Famer Aaron Rodgers, who is back with a bigger chip on his shoulder than he had last year. And remember how far he got with that chip on his shoulder last year. He still has unfinished business as far as he's concerned. This is going to be a close game, a great game, nothing but respect for both of these teams. But take an extra half a point, let the Saints cover at +5, but it's going to be over 50. This should be one of those fun football games to watch. Chicago Bears coming into Los Angeles, the new house. Chicago Bears against the Rams. Everything in this one is lined up for the Rams. Matthew Stafford should have a great game. The Rams are going to win. The Rams are going to cover at -6.5. Take over 46 in this one. I think he's going to air it out. I think the Rams are really going to give the hometown crowd something to cheer about on Sunday. And then we wrap it up with a game that's near and dear to me. The Ravens rolling into Las Vegas to take on the Raiders. The Raiders right now are +4.5. I would say go an extra half point. Take the Raiders +5, go over 51. How good is the Raider defense this year? That's one thing that is still yet to be seen. We won't know until not just the opening week, but 3, 4, 5 weeks into the season. If they get a lead, can they hang on to it? It's been their Achilles heel. How good is the secondary this year? Also yet to be seen. But with the new defensive coordinator, some new personnel, as of this morning, they were still trying to figure out who's going to play defensive tackle. So there's some unanswered questions that need to be answered quickly. And again, what really matters are the results of the game. And you know my outlook on that, like every other member of the Raider Nation. We don't care who starts. We just want to win. Just win, baby. And so, Ravens at the Raiders. Take the Raiders +5 over 51. There you have it, my week 1 recap. Wish I could have been there to join you guys live, but I appreciate, again, being part of this week in and week out. Next week, you'll see my smiling face live without any technical interruptions. Peace out, everybody, and enjoy your week 1.
Thank you so much to Raider Jim for giving us those great insight into those games. Obviously, we talked about the Eagles and the Falcons. I couldn't agree more with him when it comes to that. And that's where I will start. It will be the Philadelphia Eagles +3. Atlanta favored by 3. The over-under is 48. When it comes to the over-under, I think when it comes for Atlanta, maybe at least later in the year, you're going to feel very comfortable taking the over with that defense and how bad they are. However, early on, you might actually go the opposite way. This is obviously the healthiest they're going to be, and possibly, looking at the Philadelphia offense, there's a lot of question marks on that offense. So in this situation, normally I would say Atlanta is a team that you kind of ride the overs. This one, I'm going to stay away from, but I am all over Atlanta -3. I've actually had Atlanta -3 for pretty much since this line came out. I mean, at least 2 months ago. So take Atlanta -3 if you can find it -3, even by a half point, just in case, a last minute field goal or something like that. It doesn't give you a push. But yeah, I really, really do like Atlanta -3. Raider Jim also talked about Baltimore and Vegas. He liked the Raiders -5. Myself, in this game, I am looking at the over here. I think it's going to be a high-powered offensive game. The Ravens defense is good, but I do also like what the Raiders can do with the ball in their hands, especially at home. Their first game in the Allegiant Stadium with fans. I expect an electric atmosphere, and I expect a lot of points to be thrown up. Currently, the line is -4.5, according to Vegas Insider, for Baltimore. Myself, if it gets up to 5.5, definitely the Raiders are a look there, but I feel very comfortable looking at Baltimore and Las Vegas as being over 51. You even want to cut yourself back a little bit by a half point, get yourself down to 51 or 50.5. That way, a 31-20 victory for somebody doesn't ruin everything. Moving on to Thursday night's matchup, of course, we'll get the regular season rolling. It is the Dallas Cowboys at the defending Super Bowl champs, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, for the Dallas Cowboys, it is getting the health back of Dak Prescott and getting all of their talented pieces to move in the same direction. Obviously, the Cowboys, I believe, are the most talented team in the NFC East. And as an Eagle fan, it obviously pains me to say that, but those are the facts. However, just because you are the most talented team in the NFC East does not mean anything going into this game. 8 points, I believe, is a bit too much. I could very easily see Dallas sticking around in this game, making this a field goal or even a 6-point game that would obviously give the win, or would not allow Tampa Bay to cover the spread. I do like Dallas to stay under, I do like this game to stay under the 51.5. I think both of these defenses are okay together. Obviously, that Tampa Bay defense might be the best in all of football. Everyone returning from a championship side. The Dallas Cowboys have some work to do on defense, but I believe, what we saw from Tampa Bay last year was a lot of ups and downs. And when they played good teams, they did struggle. I do think Dallas is a good team, at least early. Like most of these teams, this is as healthy as you're going to get. This is as non-dramatic as the Cowboys are going to be. It's week number 1. I'm sure in 2 months or so that will change. Something will happen, like always, when it does come to the Cowboys. So Tampa Bay currently favored by 8 points. That to me is a bit much. However, I could very easily see Tampa Bay covering easily. But the 51.5, I like the under there, especially when it comes to kind of first game. Maybe not a situation where the offenses are really showing every single thing that they have. I'm just going to run through a couple more of these games, at least in terms of the spreads and lines. Not too many picks here. We also have, besides Dallas and Tampa Bay, obviously starting us off, the morning games on Sunday. You'll have the Jets heading to Carolina. Currently, the Carolina Panthers are 5.5-point favorites. 44.5 is the over-under there. This is obviously very interesting because Sam Darnold makes his Carolina debut against, of course, the New York Jets. All eyes will be on that matchup. It's kind of the new kid on the block in New York and Zach Wilson versus the old kid on the block in Sam Darnold. Now, look, I will say this. I've obviously talked about 3 games straight off the bat that I did like one way or another, where it was the spread or the over-under. When it comes to betting NFL football, week 1 is always probably the most difficult. A lot of crapshoot going on. You really don't know. Those 3 preseason games, they don't tell you a ton. They don't tell you nearly as much as you think. So keep an eye on this. Carolina 5.5-point favorites. That's going to be tough. I think the Jets can do some things and at least keep this within a field goal game. Keep an eye there. Pittsburgh will head to Buffalo in a good early season matchup of something that We expect possibly 2 playoff teams, at least definitely on Buffalo's side. Currently, right now, the Buffalo Bills are 6.5-point favorites. The over-under here is 48.5. I like the over here. I know both of these teams have good defenses, but at the same time, I think the strengths of both of these teams are the offensive side of the ball. So 48.5 points, I think we could see a 30-27 game, something like that. Even, 30-21 will get us there, 30-24, something like that. Buffalo to cover 6.5, I think that's a bit early. And a good offensive team like Pittsburgh, I don't know if they'll be able to fully cover that. I really do like the over 48.5 there, though. In a early season cellar dweller matchup in the AFC South, it will be the Jacksonville Jaguars heading to Houston. Jacksonville is 3-point favorites. Now, when the line came out about 2 months ago, when the schedules were released, the Houston Texans were 1-point favorites. Obviously, since then, things have changed, most notably with the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson. Obviously, Deshaun Watson, for the foreseeable future, will be inactive. He will be a very expensive inactive player for what we assume, as I said, for the next 17 games for Houston. Excuse me. So stepping in is Tyrod Taylor. Obviously, always kind of seems to be that guy who finds himself into a spot and is able to start right away. Jacksonville 3-point favorites, 44.5 points is the over-under. I am not touching this game. I am not watching this game. If Red Zone happens to pop in here and there, okay, well, that's the only way I'll be able to watch this game. This is not going to be a very good game. And like you said, the betting line, your guess is as good as mine with two teams that have so many question marks everywhere. Probably two teams that are really fighting to win 4 or 5 games at most. Moving on to another really, really good matchup between the Arizona Cardinals and the Tennessee Titans. That game will be in Nashville, Tennessee. The Titans are 3-point favorites. The over-under is 52. Lots of points expected to be scored here. I'm actually going to go the opposite way. I'm going to go under. Kyler Murray last year took a couple steps back after the Hail Murray. Tennessee, I think Tennessee still has to kind of figure out how they're going to deal with kind of the influx of fantastic wide receiver talent they have, because Ryan Tannehill, he gets into a spot. I don't know if he's the focal point of that offense, or at least the passing game is the focal point of the offense. That could be a problem. I do like the under there with the 52. And that should be something that we keep an eye on. 52, that's a lot of points early on. I know we have two really good offenses, but I do think we're going to see some early season jitters, early season miscommunications. Sticking up in the NFC East, it is the Washington football team hosting the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are 1-point favorites. The line is 44.5. I am all over Washington here. I like them to get the money line. I don't know what the money line is, but can't be too crazy. They're only 1-point underdogs. However, 44.5 points. I also like the under here. I think both defenses are going to have their ways early on. I think Washington makes less mistakes than the Chargers do. You also have a situation where you have a new head coach there in LA. So you got Ron Rivera, who's obviously seasoned. He knows what to expect week 1. Coming into against a coach that is as green as they come. Next up, it is the Seattle Seahawks at the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Carson Wentz is expected to play. This is being recorded on the 8th of September, about 5 days before the first full Sunday and before this game actually goes off. So things could still change. Either way, though, I still think Seattle can win this game. Currently, the line is 2.5. For Seattle. The over-under is 49.5. This is a tough one. I'm not going to touch it. I personally am a little too biased. I'm a huge Carson Wentz fan even still. And 49.5 points is kind of right in that sweet spot where I could see where that could go either way. So I'm not touching that one. Should be a very good game, especially if Carson Wentz is ready to roll. But keep an eye on that one. Obviously, an early intra-conference or a between-conference game might mean something down the road. But moving on to the Cincinnati Bengals hosting the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings here are 3-point favorites, 47.5 points. Obviously, the Vikings on the road in Cincinnati, getting 3 points. The home dog being the Cincinnati Bengals here. I am not a big Vikings fan. I don't like Kirk Cousins. I don't think he's a very good quarterback. I think he owes pretty much the entire Viking organization a lot of money from that contract that he signed that was all guaranteed. But Minnesota to cover 3 here, I think they will get the job done. They have enough talent around Kirk Cousins. There are plenty of weapons for him to utilize, and that defense with Mike Zimmer, I think, has to improve off of last year. I also like the under 47.5 here. I think Cincinnati, it's going to take them a couple weeks to kind of get their legs underneath them after a year in which they obviously lost Joe Burrow, and they'll have to deal with all that on the other side. Moving on to the San Francisco 49ers, heading to Detroit. The over-under line here is 45, and the line is 7.5. The San Francisco 49ers are the favorites here. Now, an interesting situation here, similar kind of to the Sam Darnold situation. You have Jared Goff making his debut, not against his former team, but against a former rival in the San Francisco 49ers. I think he's going to come out. He's going to try and do everything he can. He wants more than anybody to show that, you know what, he was the better quarterback and that the Rams actually made the mistake. Will it happen? I don't know. Look, 7.5 points, like I said, is a lot to cover for a team that didn't make the playoffs last year in the San Francisco 49ers and a team that has a lot of question marks. Jimmy Garoppolo has been named QB1, but for how long? We shall find out. Not touching this one, but if you are going to, the lines you're looking at, more than likely, or at least on Vegas Insider, the consensus across all the books, San Francisco 7.5 point favorites, and a 45 is the over-under line. The big games are pretty much in the afternoon. You got Cleveland heading to Kansas City. Kansas City is a 6-point favorite. That's 54.5 is the over-under line. That's the highest point total of the weekend. And I would not be surprised to see these teams go over. Neither of these teams have particularly good defenses. They have guys on defense who can make plays, but not overall depth on the defensive side of things. 54.5, though, for me, still a little too much. You're pretty much looking for a 34-31 game just to, feel comfortable about that. Kansas City is 6-point favorites, but Kansas City is a beast at home. Kansas City, until they are proven otherwise, are the best team in the AFC. 6 points here. I don't know if I'm laying that fully down. Maybe if you want to pick another couple games and parlay a couple money lines, that might be the best way to play Kansas City here. 6 points, though. I like Cleveland. I think they can make it more competitive than that. I mean, it's going to be a situation that's an missed extra point away from a push, so that's tough to deal with. But I'm moving away, or I'm going to enjoy that game as a fan, not as a bettor. Another game that I'm probably going to enjoy as a fan, not a bettor, is the Miami Dolphins heading to New England. The Patriots are 3-point favorites. The over-under is 43.5. Obviously, this is going to more than likely probably be a defensive battle, or at least between two defensive coaches, two guys who know each other well, and Brian Flores and Bill Belichick, the student taking on the master, if you will. Look, this is going to be a really good game, and I think really set the tone on how maybe the AFC East is played out. I could very easily see the New England Patriots getting this and covering easily, but New England -3, that's essentially, if you're familiar with how betting lines work, that's essentially Vegas saying if this was at a neutral site, this would be a pick'em game. They're given 3 points for New England just because they're at home. I will see how these teams fare before I put any hard-earned money on them. As we get towards the last bit of these games, we have the Denver Broncos heading to the New York Giants. Denver is 3-point favorites. Probably one of the few times Denver is going to be a road favorite. And the over-under here is 42. That is the lowest number of the weekend. We do definitely expect to see some a defensive battle here. Denver favored by 3. I would take the Giants all day. I think the Giants can win this game. I think Saquon Barkley is expected to play. The Giants can match up well with the Broncos. I would go almost as far as to say the Giants money line here if you want to get crazy, but I do like the Giants +3. The over-under 42, that's probably about where we're going to see it. I think we see a 17-14 game, which would put it under. But even then, that's a little low for me to play that over-under, no matter what type of rough offenses we're seeing here. And now to the final two games. We'll have the Green Bay Packers heading to the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, it is a new era in New Orleans, really a new era in the NFL. Drew Brees has retired. It is time for the Jameis Winston show to invade New Orleans, and it is time for us to see how it goes. And their first test, or his first test, is going to be one of the best teams perennially in the league in Aaron Rodgers, as Aaron Rodgers begins his final year in Green Bay. The Packers are 3-point favorites, and the over-under here is 50. I like the over here. I think both teams are going to put points up. In terms of the spread, I also do like Green Bay here to cover the 3. I think Aaron Rodgers is out to prove a point this year, that he is going to be one of the top players in the league, no matter what anybody says, no matter what any front office says. So here in this situation, I do like the over, and I if I had to, I'd say Green Bay -3, but I'd probably kind of maybe loop in Green Bay, Kansas City, and San Francisco into a 3-team money line parlay. Probably get me +250. I'd feel okay about that. But I do like the over 50 here. I could very easily see this being a 31-28 game there. Excuse me. Final game to talk about is the Chicago Bears at the Los Angeles Rams. This will be the first game at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood with fans. Of course, it is going to be the Rams home game. It will be on Sunday Night Football. Currently, the Rams are 7.5-point favorites. 46 points is the over-under here. Now, like we talked about with the Detroit Lions, Jared Goff making his debut against a former division rival. Matthew Stafford making his debut against a former division rival in the Chicago Bears. I think both defenses are really going to have a big say in what happens here. But at the end of the day, the Los Angeles Rams defense is better. And I think overall the Rams are better. 7.5 is a lot to cover. But I am going to look at that 46. I like the under here. I think this is a hard-fought, kind of grinded-out football game. Both teams know both defenses are coming to play. Both defenses are going to be tough to deal with. That's what I'm looking at in this one. Give me the under 46. But that is what we have for you for week number 1. We are hoping next week that we will have a more, traditional podcast where we're all together being able to kind of talk about it all in unison. But we were able to get this out for you all. And thank you to Raider Jim and, of course, Brandon Lupian. As always, sometimes, things happen, and we're still here for you. We're getting it done. If you need anything from us, make sure you hit us up on Twitter. Once again, Raider Jim is at Raider Jim 1090. Brandon Lupian is at Portland 76er, and myself at First Report FERST. And that's all we got for you on the first week of betting with the NFL Weekly, here presented by the First Off the Bench Podcast Network. Everyone comes off the bench, but we are first. It is time for you all to go wash your hands and stop hating everybody. We'll talk to you very, very soon. Enjoy the first weekend of football and hope to see you at the winners window.